If you love drawing in Procreate and want to achieve a realistic imitation of traditional materials, you've probably faced the challenge of digital textures lacking that natural feel. There are plenty of brushes and textures on the market, but they often fall short of delivering the results you'd get with real materials. Today, I'll show you how to create rich watercolor texture in Procreate drawing a mid-century book illustration. We'll be using my realistic watercolor studio brushes, available with a discount via the link in the description. But you can also use your own brushes. The key is to understand the approach. Hi, I'm Pavel. I'm an illustrator and type designer at Vintage Voyage Design Studio. Well, let's dive in. What makes real watercolor so magical? Why do they always feel more alive than digital ones? Let's take the book This is New York by Miroslav Šašek, a Czech illustrator who inspires me deeply. His artwork is a perfect blend of graphic design and the rich textures of traditional materials like watercolor and ink. Look at those lush washes, gradients, shadows, and highlights. They create the vibrancy we all admire. The secret? It's the combination of pigment richness and paper texture. Without that, watercolor just isn't watercolor. But we're working in Procreate. We've got expensive tablets, Apple pencils, and we want equally premium results. So why do our watercolors look like this and not like this? I'm about to show you how to get the effect of real watercolor without dipping a brush in water. I picked this fun character with cool textured pants as an example. That's who we'll be drawing. Let's do this. The main technique I use is working in parts. First, I create the main shape of the object. Then, using clipping masks and transparency, I build up the texture. To create the base shapes, almost any brush that provides solid fills and doesn't have too much transparency will work. Since this layer acts as the foundation for the textures we'll build on top, it's important that it isn't too transparent. Otherwise, the textures will end up looking transparent too. Each element of the illustration has its own layer, and that's important. It makes everything much easier, editing, refining, and adding unique textures and pigmentation to each element of the illustration. Now comes the fun part. Once we've created the base shapes for most of the main elements, it's time to add texture. Here's what you do. Create a new layer on top of the base layer you want to texture. Then tap on the layer icon and select Clipping Mask. This makes all the pixels on the new layer stay within the boundaries of the layer below it. Even better, any new clipping mask layer will still be limited to the base layer it's tied to. Alright, so create a new clipping mask layer and pick a nice textured watercolor brush. The more texture, the better. Lower the opacity to about 30% and choose a color that's close to your base layer to start adding pigment. Don't be afraid to experiment and tweak things until you get the result you're happy with. If you've got a brush in your collection that mimics watercolor blotches, definitely put it to use. this section, I'll keep it in real time without speeding it up. This way you can see the magic in more detail, so pay close attention. almost done with our illustration. Just a little bit more to go. That's it. Our illustration is complete. It looks almost just like real watercolor. Just look at it. No dirty water, no cleanup, just vibrant, professional-looking textures. And all of this in just a few simple steps. I hope I was able to show you how to create realistic watercolor using Procreate and a set of watercolor brushes. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. Seriously, it's free. And don't forget to subscribe. For more exclusive goodies like brushes, palettes, and process videos, check out my Patreon. Oh, and follow me on Instagram. I post there daily. Thanks for watching, stay inspired, and I'll see you in the next video.